Passport Mommy with Michelle Jerson. Motherhood is both amazing and difficult at the same time. The Passport Mommy, Michelle Jerson, is here to share in your journey.
It's amazing. It really is, just watching them grow and see how much change and how much they learn just without the filters around them.
Joining you on your greatest adventure, here's Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.
Welcome to the show. I'm Michelle, and I'm so happy to have with me today Dr. Peter Braglia. He is a doctor of chiropractic, and I met him when I was in my third trimester of pregnancy. I had posted something on one of the moms boards asking for recommendations, and the list of moms that recommended Dr. Braglia, I thought, okay, I have to go to him. And I'm thrilled to bring him on the show today to talk to everybody who may be pregnant or after your pregnancy, because chiropractic is so important for a healthy pregnancy and for feeling your best afterwards. Dr. Braglia, thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure being here.
Yeah. So you graduated from the New York Chiropractic College in Seneca Falls in 2006. And since about 7 years ago, you've had a thriving family practice in Stratford, Connecticut.
Correct. Yeah. So I've been here at True Health Chiropractic since 2012. And at that same time, that's when I got certified in the Webster technique, which is what I primarily use with pregnant patients.
Right. So for everybody who's not familiar with the Webster technique, tell us a little bit about it.
It's a specific analysis and technique to correct a misalignment in the sacrum, which is the very bottom, the tailbone, and the spine. And the reason being is that when you balance the pelvis and those muscles that support and the ligaments that support the spine, it removes torsion to the uterus, to the actual pelvic floor, and it takes the constraint away that the baby might have, which allows the baby to get into the best possible position.
And there has been a lot of proof that doing such a technique beforehand might lower the amount of time you're in labor, also get the baby into the correct positioning, as you were saying. And I can only speak for myself, but I know that I felt great going into labor, and my labor was very fast. So I attribute that to you. I know I had a rib issue in my third trimester, probably from coughing too much, and just had extreme rib pain. And you really helped with that. And I believe you really helped get my baby into a very good position.
Oh, I'm very glad to hear that. Absolutely. They've done a decent amount of research, actually, which shows, less drugs needed during labor, quicker labors, definitely enhances the fetal positioning. And it gives our patients a better chance of having a natural birth, which a lot of them are striving for. So.
Right, exactly. So for those who maybe are in their last trimester and they are not feeling their greatest, but they're hesitant to go to a chiropractor, what would you tell them?
Yeah, so I hear that a lot because it's if somebody's never been to a chiropractor, the idea of getting chiropractic care when you're pregnant can be a little bit scary. I would have them. The best thing you could do too is go online to it's ICPA, the number 4 kids.com, which is the Pediatric Chiropractic Association. And if they went to that site, you could find a Webster certified chiropractor in their area. That would be the best thing to do because you don't want to go to just any office. You want somebody who's trained, who has a lot of practice working with pregnant patients.
Right. So when you described what you do with the Webster technique, for somebody who isn't pregnant, would that technique also be beneficial? Because I know myself, I have issues with the sacral area. How does that differ from just a regular adjustment without the Webster technique? Yeah,
absolutely. So the idea behind the Webster technique in correcting the sacrum can be applied to anybody. So you don't have to be pregnant. And we've just found that during pregnancy, that's the area that tends to shift, to a very subtle shift from its normal position. And sometimes that happens from a fall previous to pregnancy or trauma or posture, which causes slight misalignment of the sacroiliac joint, the SI joint, the sacrum, the lumbar spine. And correcting it using that technique can help with a variety of issues. Pubic symphysis pain, sciatic pain, low back pain, muscle pain, spasming. So there's a variety of things that it can help with.
Sure. Yeah. And I have found that I had not gone to a chiropractor for many, many years because I was told because I was hypermobile that it's not the best thing for my body. But I have to say, with the types of adjustments that you only do what's necessary. You don't
Yeah.
seem to just crack randomly for no reason.
Yes, exactly. Right. And with the Webster technique, there's no twisting. So it's not like what people have in their mind sometimes. There's no twisting and popping that way. It's a very specific and gentle adjustment. Yeah. Because a lot of times less is more when it comes to correcting things in the spine.
Right. I know some people just feel they want to hear crack, 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 and then they feel like they've been adjusted.
Yeah. Yep. There's definitely that.
Yeah. So also in your office, you have little tables for kids, and you adjusted my 3.5-month-old the other day. And I was really curious to see what you would do and how this would go. And I don't know if it has any correlation to you. I'm going to credit you with it. But 2 days later, he rolled over for the first time.
Wow. That's great. That's awesome.
So but tell me a little bit about the benefits for adjusting children.
Yeah, so we hear things like that a lot. It can help with developmental milestones. One of the big ones that I see with newborns is it's like a torticollis almost. So the baby's born with a slight tilt, and that can affect breastfeeding. That could affect sleeping. That could affect the head shaping. So there's a number of things that right off the bat chiropractic can help with. And then as they grow up, it can help with better sleep. It can help be a little bit more comfortable. Digestion, constipation is a huge one. Mm-hmm. So I'm lucky enough to have a good relationship with the local doulas, midwives, pediatricians. So they actually will pick up on some of these things and refer for chiropractic care. And we see very good results.
That's nice to hear, because I feel like some doctors may not look to the alternative treatments and they just go right to the medications, or especially if somebody's, say, having recurrent ear infections. So to be able to be a little more open-minded and to see that it is a whole body treatment that needs to be done that could help with one issue.
Yeah, exactly. And I think parents are starting to look for an alternative, something a little bit more natural, especially in the beginning. You don't want to, obviously if you have to use medication, of course, but if you could avoid it and with a gentle, safe chiropractic adjustment, I think a lot of parents are very open to that.
Yes, I agree. So I'm one of those parents. My husband is skeptical. So not skeptical. I think he's just not knowledgeable. So when I told him that I wanted to bring my daughter to see you, he says, "You're not bringing our kids. Why do they need to get adjusted? Why does anybody need to crack them? They're perfectly fine." So what do you tell parents like that? Yeah,
usually that comes from just not knowing what we actually do in the office, which I don't blame them. How would they? So the best advice would be for them to come into the office and they can actually see what an adjustment is, because they have a picture in their head of a crack or a twist,
right.
And there's none of that with children, with babies. It's literally my fingertips, so it's not. They wouldn't even be sore after an adjustment, whereas like an adult sometimes could have some soreness. Mm-hmm. With the child, it's just the pressure of my fingertips, and that's all you need to correct any subtle misalignment.
Right.
So usually when somebody sees the adjustment, they have a totally different, they're like, "Oh, that's it? That's all you're going to do?"
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I said to him, I said, "Why don't you come into the office?" Or maybe the next time that I bring, because I will bring my son and probably my daughter even before he comes in, I'll video it and I'll show it to him. But what do you tell parents? How does it actually help prevent recurrent ear infections and some of the other things that you had mentioned?
Yeah, so with ear infections, that's an issue with severe muscle tension in the upper neck, and a lot of times that comes from the birth process itself. Even a C-section, even the most easiest birth, can have a lot of strain on the neck, on the upper neck of a baby, and when that happens, we see a lot of tightness in the muscles that support the neck, the paraspinal muscles. So what tends to happen with that is that the fluid that would normally drain gets stuck up there, so that tension in the spine prevents the fluid from draining. So when we correct any misalignment, that allows the muscles to relax, and then you'll see almost an immediate drainage of that fluid.
Wow.
And Yeah, so we've had lots of kids be able to avoid going the ear tubes route, which is great, and less antibiotics, which is also great. Been a very good experience, yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I would do anything to not have to give my kids antibiotics in the first couple of years. Obviously, if they need them, they need them, and I'm not going to let them be sick, without medicine. But I think if you can prevent it or cure, naturally, or maybe it's just a minor ear infection, and then you get an adjustment and it doesn't get into a full blown one, that's great.
Yeah.
So where can people go to check out more information about you, or if they're just interested in reading up more about chiropractic for when they're pregnant and for their young children?
Yeah, so my website, which is truehealthct.com, has both information about myself, and then it also has loads of information about prenatal chiropractic care, pediatric chiropractic care, just chiropractic care in general. There's a blog on there as well, so you can start there. You can get a lot of information, and then, like I said, the ICPA for kids is a great resource. You could see, depending on where you live, you could find somebody who's knowledgeable on pediatric and prenatal chiropractic.
Dr. Peter Braglia, thank you so much for joining me. So informative. I'm a huge fan. That's why I wanted to have you on, so that other people can hear just how beneficial chiropractic treatment is. I'm Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy. More coming up in a few.
Motherhood is a journey. Joining you on your greatest adventure, here's Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.
Welcome back to the show. I am thrilled to have with me Bill Carmody. He is an executive leadership coach, and I met Bill very recently at the National Speakers Association Summer Social, and I was so excited to go. I had my 3-month-old with me, and he came up to me at the end, and I was so grateful because I didn't really get to socialize with many people there that night because, as you know, it's always a challenge when you're out there because you want to learn and you want to network, but you have a little guy in tow, so it's kind of hard. So, Bill, thank you for coming up to me. Thank you for telling me a little bit about what you do, because you are a very impressive person.
Thank you, Michelle, and thank you for having me on your show. I really appreciate it.
Sure. So tell me a little bit about your background and how you got to where you are today.
So, when I finished college, I had one objective, and that was to not schlep coffee. That's it. That's all I wanted to do. And in 1994, the way to do that was to get into digital marketing. So I built some of the very first commercial websites for companies like AT&T, MasterCard, CBS, Coors Brewing Company. And I placed MasterCard's very first banner ad on Yahoo, which was one of the very first banner ads in our industry. Sorry about all that. So I really enjoyed, for 25 years, I built and ran 2 multi-million-dollar marketing agencies from the ground up. So I started them from scratch and really had a fantastic time with that. And after 25 years, I realized what I was most interested in was helping people, not the businesses that they work for. And so I became a master trainer, an executive coach, and continue to do some writing. So those are the things that I'm working on these days.
That's incredible. So let's talk about being an executive coach. As a coach, what do you do?
So as a coach, I primarily listen and ask powerful questions. There's a big distinction between a coach and a therapist. A therapist is someone who has gone through medical training and a medical background. And for me, I'm leveraging my life experiences. Having built from the ground up multi-million-dollar marketing agencies, I've been married now for 19 years, blissful marriage. I've got 2 amazing children, Will, who's 15, Ryan, who's 12, and I'm financially free. So when you add all those things together, there's a lot of wealth of worldly experience that a lot of people would be interested in tapping into. And so I work with the clients who are interested in either helping grow their professional careers or their businesses. I work with individuals who are looking to change a different aspect of their life in terms of their, whether it's improving their marriage or increasing their financial freedom. A lot of those things all come together in a way that is very powerful. And as a coach, I get to really listen to what my clients have to say and support them with their breakthroughs of really overcoming any particular challenges that they may have.
Which I think is incredible, because sitting here and just listening to this, I'm thinking I need to sign up because obviously the financial end of things, that goes hand in hand with marriage, because I think marriage is the number one stressor is finance. And I think most people want to figure out, hey, how can I become financially free, or at least more comfortable financially? And how do I keep those that I love close to me and the marriage alive? Because that is so difficult too, especially after you have children. So I am very curious to hear how you've managed both of those in a minute. But I do want to know, so as the coach, do you do sessions over the phone with somebody if they don't live close by? Do you meet in person?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Most of the clients that I work with are over the phone. I do some Zoom calls internationally with folks who want to actually see face-to-face. Sometimes that's helpful. But the mass majority of what I do is over the phone, and that's what most people need these days. What's really interesting is the ability to hear and listen and sort of digest problems that are coming up. It's really easy to do over the phone, and that's really sometimes not seeing someone else's face and actually hearing the voice and letting it be in your head is more powerful. But for those people who really want to have a face-to-face interaction, I'll typically do that for Zoom. And if they live in the New York City area, I'm happy to do in person. But generally speaking, that's rare. Most of the time, it's either over the phone or on a Zoom call.
Right. And now from the other end of things, if somebody comes to you and says, hey, I love what you've done, I'd like to become a coach, how do you guide them?
Sure. So what's really beautiful is that there's actually a number of coaching programs here in the United States. They're all certified through one of two governing bodies. The one that I really respect and have my coaching certification through is the International Coaching Federation, or ICF. And ICF then designates individual coaching programs, so they certify them so that when you've completed a coaching certification program, you can become either what they call an ACC, an MCC, or a PCC. An ACC is an associate level accredited certified coach. PCC is a professional certified coach, and an MCC is a master certified coach. The distinctions between them is the number of paid coaching hours that you have, and so they create those distinctions, and then you can become certified with both the ICF as well as whatever authority puts you through their coaching program. So what's great about that is there's a lot of options out there available today.
Absolutely. So interesting. We're talking with Bill Carmody. He is an executive leadership coach. Bill, I want to talk to you so much more. So coming up, let's talk about how to keep the spice in your marriage after being married for many years, after having kids, because we know it is definitely not an easy task. I have to say, personally, I used to host a relationship talk show for many years, and nothing could have prepared me for a marriage with kids. So I am definitely looking forward to talking with you after the break about how you coach your clients on just enhancing their marriage. And I know you also have a book coming out soon as well, which we'll talk about. I'm Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy. More coming up in a few.
Motherhood is both amazing and difficult at the same time. The Passport Mommy, Michelle Jerson, is here to share in your journey. Passport Mommy with Michelle Jerson. Motherhood is a journey. Joining you on your greatest adventure, here's Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Michelle Jerson, and I'm here with Bill Carmody. He is an executive leadership coach, but what a career he has had. He has a book coming out soon called The 3 Rules of Marriage. He's on a mission to help 1,000 powerful executives transform their lives and the lives of their teams. Bill, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it, Michelle.
Sure. So tell me a little bit. I mean, there's so much more to you. I'm reading your bio, and you've just had quite the background. What has led you to get to the point where you want to help people in their marriages?
So in 2017, actually, I'll go back even further. 2014, 15 is really when I had an aha moment. I was standing on the beach in St. Lucia looking out on the ocean, and I had everything that I'd ever wanted as a 12-year-old, right? I had a beautiful marriage. I had amazing kids. My company had just been on the Inc. 5000 list 2 years in a row, the 83rd fastest growing company in the United States. So I had all these wonderful things. I was right at financial financial freedom point, right? All was happening, but I was so unfulfilled. And I remember looking out in the ocean thinking, is this all there is? I always thought that once I achieved all these things, I would be happy, but I wasn't.
Wow.
And so I really stepped back and I said, well, where is it that I was happiest? And it was really when I was helping people. And when I realized that that's what I wanted to do was I didn't care about, I make EMC $10, $15 million. They don't care because the individuals there aren't profiting it from directly. Their shareholders are. I help large organizations. It didn't matter. Being able to help people transform their lives made a real difference in their life and also fulfilled me. And so that's when I shifted and I became a master trainer and executive coach.
Terrific. So tell me what you have done with working with people in their marriages, because look, I know marriage is not easy. Marriage after kids is not easy. Communication is a huge thing in relationships, probably the number one thing to the success or failure of a marriage. How do you help clients just get and keep that spice in their relationships?
I love that. So this started coming up in my coaching sessions when time and time again, I would think we were talking about a business or driving a business or helping a business grow. And oftentimes the thing that was really stopping the owner or the executive that I was supporting was something coming up in their marriage. And so what became fascinating to me was how much this idea of marriage was really making an impact on the business. And so I really started to look at all those different pieces of what did I need to do in order to support my clients and be in a place where they could really have a happy, successful business by having a happy, successful marriage. And so after doing that a number of times, I decided to write the book, The 3 Rules of Marriage. And what I'll tell you in terms of spicing it up, let me tell you what the 3 rules are, if that's okay. And then that will give you the foundation for what I think that can really support most of the listeners on your program. Mm-hmm. So the first rule is very simple. It's more important to say I appreciate you than I love you. Now, that's counterintuitive because we think that love is more important than appreciation, but love is general and appreciation is specific. We're going to spend a lot more time doing dishes than we are having sex in the bedroom.
Right.
And so this, so I appreciate you doing dishes. I appreciate you taking out the trash. I appreciate all the things about you. Like, the appreciation is specific. And even if you've had a fight, after a fight and someone says, I love you, you're like, yeah, really? Because we just went through that fight. But I appreciate you taking out the trash. That's real, even after a fight. So it's more important to say I appreciate you than I love you. Number 2, don't keep score. How many times do we have a relationship, a fight, and we're no longer talking about what's happening in the moment? We're talking about things that happened 6 months ago, a year ago, 10 years ago. So when we hold on to the things in our relationship and we use them as bullets in our gun when we're having a fight, we're no longer able to fight about what's happening in the moment. We're fighting about years and years and years of issues, right? And so that basically starts to stack. And that's where most relationships start to fall apart, is because you just can't win, because you're constantly looking at the mistakes of the past and you're living in the past versus living in the present. And the third most important one is don't go to bed angry, stay up and fight. The idea there is that, when those couples, when they start to avoid conflict, then you start to go your separate corners and you just start living like separate lives. And suddenly you're no longer infused in that blissful marriage that you first went into when you first got married. And so it's important, the idea that if there's something going on in the relationship, you have 2 choices by midnight of that day. You either stay up and resolve it with your partner, or you let it go. So if it's not important enough to really fight about it, then let it go and you don't get to bring it up again, because see rule number 2, don't keep score. If it is important that you take it to the mats, you fight it out and you really get some resolution on it, and then you can also let it go. But either way, you're not keeping score, and so therefore you're constantly keeping your relationship in the moment.
I love that, because a lot of times, my husband and I will get into an argument and he'll say, I'm going to sleep, good night. And it infuriates me, because I say, you can't just turn in and turn this off. We have to finish this. And I want it done. And then it's amazing, because the next morning we wake up and I'm still really upset and angry from the night before when I don't want to be. And he's just like, oh, another day has started. And I'm still holding on to what went on the night before.
Well, and that's just it. So then what is necessary is for you to be able to let that go so that you guys can get back to where you both want to be, and for him to understand that it's still on your mind, so that it can't just, so he might be able to go to sleep, but if you are sort of in that space where you're still upset, then it's not a good conclusion to the day, right? And you don't get to start fresh. But when you can start fresh, you're able to then use that as an opportunity to really, really dive in to the relationship with each other, you know?
Yeah, I agree 100%. And remind me, what was the first rule? Oh, I appreciate you. Yes, that is so important. And
it's more important to say I appreciate you. Yeah.
Yes, I couldn't agree with you more. And especially as a mom who's home all day with the kids. And it's really easy for a husband to say, oh, well, you sit at home all day. No, not even close. And all we really want to hear sometimes is, hey, I appreciate you. I appreciate what you do with our children when I'm in the office and you're home all day.
Well, and that's just it. I mean, my wife used to joke, especially when our children were little, that I would skip off out the door at 8 o'clock in the morning because I didn't have to change the diapers. I didn't have to deal with all of the yelling and the screaming and the crying and all that other stuff, right? Yeah. And so, like, I made damn sure when I came home, I always, like, went out of my way to sort of not only just take over the childcare, but to tell my wife how much I appreciated all that she did. The fact that I wasn't there changing the diapers, the fact that I wasn't doing the grocery shopping, the fact that I wasn't maintaining the household, and really being of a place of service to thank her for basically the marriage unit that she's creating for us and the family that we were able to provide. So we appreciate each other. She appreciates me for being the breadwinner, at least in this particular dynamic, and I appreciate her for basically keeping the house intact so that we were in fact able to move forward as a family unit.
Right. And I think that's wonderful. And I really think that that's really all stay-at-home moms really want to hear for the most part. Now, tell me, what are some other ways to keep the spice in the marriage after you have kids? Because like you said, you're probably doing dishes more than you're in the bedroom.
Yes, absolutely right. So the idea of keeping the spice in the marriage, the first thing we learned really early on was to really carve out date night. And this is something that's like, well, we kind of blow it off. We look at all the things we have to do, and all we want to do is get on the couch and just crash, right? So the thing is, especially with new parents, it's really exhausting when you're raising children, especially when you're going through sleep deprivation. But one of the things we made sure of was that we always had time carved out for us. And so it didn't matter what day of the week it was, we would kind of find a day, and ideally consistently, so that we knew every week we would have a date night, whether that was going to a movie, whether that was having dinner, whatever it was. We made sure that we had either our in-laws watch the kids or hire a babysitter, but we really invested in our relationship so that ultimately what we had was a continuous growth of us, not just, hey, you're the mom of my children and I'm the dad of your children. And that's one of the risks there, is that basically we start to go do our separate roles, and we're so exhausted that we don't make time for each other. And suddenly the kids go off to college, and I'm like, who are you?
Right, exactly. And I don't know if you can hear right now, but I have my son on my lap, and he's about to have a breakdown.
Mommy, talk to me.
And it's so true. I mean, to make that time for a date night. And I know we've made excuses like, oh, they're too young to get a babysitter. And, oh, it's crazy to spend the money on a babysitter just to go out for a meal. But it is so important.
Yes, it really is. And this is what it comes down to, is that if we don't take that time for each other, then we become the parents of our children. And, 18 years later, when the kids go off to college, then what's left is, who are you? You're a stranger. I don't know you, right? And so this idea of carving out time for each other and ensuring that we, in fact, have date night set aside means that we get to learn and grow as a couple, not just as parents.
Right. And like you said, that is so important, because I am afraid that in it seems like so long, down the road, but it's really not, that we're going to turn to each other and say, hey, what do we have? What do we have here? Yeah. And so, you had mentioned before appreciating each other. How else can couples show appreciation?
Right. So that's beautiful. So what's interesting in all of this is there's another book that's not mine that I really, really highly recommend. It's called The 5 Love Languages. And the idea there is that the way your partner receives love is different depending on who the partner is. My love language, for example, is appreciation. So one of the reasons why that first rule is more important to say I appreciate you than I love you works both well for me and my wife is that we both are motivated by that love language. But that's not the only one. There's also love languages like gifts of appreciation, right? So the idea of gifts in receiving flowers. My wife, loves to receive flowers, but here's the challenge is that the most expensive time is during Valentine's Day and Mother's Day. So we made a pact and said, look, if I give you flowers throughout the rest of the year, do I have a pass so I don't have to buy you flowers on the most expensive 2 days of the year, and instead just surprise and delight. And if you find that you need flowers I haven't been given doing my job, then you can certainly pick them up at the grocery store too. That's, full permission, right? So finding ways to sort of do that where economically it makes sense. Acts of service. The idea of being able to wash dishes or take out the garbage, that can fill up someone's love tank, right? Because they really love the idea that, hey, this person is doing something special for me. There's the actual touch, how people get to, some people's love tank is filled up when they're touched, whether they are kissed or caressed or held or whatnot. And sometimes the last one is just quality time. Like, how much quality time are we spending? Now, that could be date night, or it could be on the couch. It could be just spending quality time together where you get to be with each other. So these are all the things that, like, those entire 5 categories of love that show up. And what's really important is to know, what is your partner's? How do they feel loved? Do they feel loved with words, actions, gifts, this alone time, or physical touch, these things? If you understand what that is, then you can really design a beautiful growth and spice up your love life based on knowing what your partner loves the most.
Absolutely. Now, what if your partner loves all of those things? Is that too much to ask?
No, not at all. What that means is that you get to rotate, right? You get to try different things. It's better if there's more than one love language. But there is, according to the other book, there is one primary and one secondary that's really going to drive you. And so if you take the survey, you can find out for you and your spouse, like, what is it that is really driving your love engine, right? That so you can understand that, so you know what's going to really drive it. Of course, we like all 5, but some of them really fill us up, and some of them are just nice. So you want to really know what is the things that really fill you up and what fills up your partner, so you guys can do it for each other and really feel like each one of you is working in the relationship to really make sure the other feels completely fulfilled.
Yeah. And that is wonderful advice. I love that, because like my husband likes to say, that might be what works for you, but it doesn't work for me. And if you don't know what is going to make me tick, what's the point? You can't do what you want. For me, it's not going to work.
And that's the worst, right? Because if I'm filled up by words of appreciation and you're filled up by, say, gifts, then, you're giving me gifts and they don't mean that much to me. And all I really want you to do is to appreciate me by saying it out loud. And I'm saying all the words of appreciation to you because that's my love language, and you don't really care because what you really want from me is some sort of a gift or token of my appreciation, right? Like we're talking past each other. So that's why it's so important that we understand each other's, because they're often not the same.
And like you hear my little newborn crying in the background, he's not being heard right now, and he needs something like, just turn me over.
Time. That's right. I want quality time, Mom. Stop talking on the phone. Stop talking in the microphone, right? I want you. Yeah,
exactly. Awesome. But we still have some time left, which I'm thrilled about, because I do want to keep talking with you, Bill. So coming up, we're going to continue talking with Bill Carmody. He is an executive leadership coach, has so much to offer, so many. So more coming up in a few. I'm Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.
Motherhood is a journey. Joining you on your greatest adventure, here's Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.
I'm here with Bill Carmody. He is an executive leadership coach, but so much more than just coaching businesses. He coaches people in their marriages. He coaches people if they're trying to figure out what's the next step? What do they want to do in life? Maybe you've had a successful career, but it's not enough. Or maybe you're a stay-at-home mom like so many of us, and you want to get back into the workforce, but you need something that's a little more flexible, something to do with your child. He will help you figure that out. Bill, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Michelle. And to that end, I would love to give a gift to your listeners, if that's okay. Sure. I actually set up a landing page, billcarmody.com/mommy. as in honor of this interview. And anyone in the listeners who would like to experience coaching the way I hold coaching can grab a free hour on my calendar. So no charge at all. Just go to there, grab the link, and pick a time that works for them.
That sounds great. I'm definitely going to be taking advantage of that. So a lot of times, moms need to go back into the workforce after having been out for a little while to take care of their children. Or maybe even the dad loses his job, because we know that happens a lot. My husband was out of work 2 days before our daughter was born. And it takes a while sometimes to find your next job. So what happens when dad's out of work and mom needs to become the breadwinner?
This is going to become the new normal from everything that I can see. There are two really big macro trends that were happening right now, and that's automation and growth of jobs that are primarily female-driven. And so what's really interesting and challenging in our society today is that there's a tremendous amount of downsizing that's happening, and primarily male-dominated industries are pulling back, and female-dominated industries are growing in ways that we've not seen for a very long time. And so what happens is what you're explaining is actually something that a lot of families are going through right now, and it's problematic on multiple levels. Number one, the man can often feel emasculated because they want to be the breadwinner. They want to be the one taking care of their family. And suddenly they find themselves as the homemaker because their spouse is actually has an opportunity for career growth where they do not. And so,
right.
Unfortunately, oftentimes the mom going back to work really would prefer to be at home with the child, especially in the early years of development. And they're feeling like there's the pressure to go back to be the primary breadwinner. So I share that with you because it's not uncommon. And what ends up happening is really just being able to be open and have conversation about it. Because if you're harboring resentment on either side, right, then it's going to really put a kink in the marriage. Meaning specifically that if the man is feeling emasculated and can't talk about it with his wife, then there's that tension in the relationship. If the woman is really the one as the breadwinner and really would prefer to be back with the child, raising the children, then that's got to be open and discussed. So really, effective communication is really important in that aspect of the marriage, because if those things aren't being discussed and they're not having an open conversation about it, it can't be resolved. It starts to harbor ill will, and that can really destroy a marriage.
Absolutely. And especially also, even if the dad is, say, the breadwinner and the mom does want to be home with the children, but also feels like, hey, I'm giving up the career that I had. There could be a lot of emotion that's going on behind that as well.
And what's best? Because if the career loss, is that going to be an economic loss in the family unit that's so great that it can't be regained at some point in the future? Or is it something that is offset because the cost of home care by having somebody else raise a child may be equal to whatever is being made? So then it comes down to lifestyle even, right? Is it better for mom's sanity to be back at work because she needs a break from her children, right? These are all very complex issues and no easy answers. But what we can't do is not talk about them. Right?
Exactly.
By not having conversation about it, that's where the wedges in the relationship begin and ultimately can lead to divorce.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's also important for moms who do decide to stay at home to meet other moms who are also in this boat, because like you said, a lot of moms just choose to stay home because daycare or babysitters almost are the same price as you're getting paid at work in your career. So then you really do have to make those important decisions. So we have about a minute left. Tell everybody again where they can go to get more information on you, how to take advantage of your free session that you're offering for your coaching and all the types of coaching that you offer.
Thank you so much. So it's Bill Carmody, BILLCAR, M as in Mary, ODY.com/mommy, MOMMY. So all the details will be found there. I am, as I said, an executive coach. So I work with a lot of executives and professionals who are running companies or at the C-suite of their organizations. I also work with VPs, directors, and basically anyone who is looking to balance their career and their marriage and their family life. So that's why, I have a lot of different aspects to the coaching practice that I have today. I love it. I enjoy it. This is the kind of work that just fulfills me. And it's just been an honor and a privilege to be on your show today, Michelle.
Thank you so much for being here. It was an honor to talk to you for these last 3 segments. I feel like we can continue talking for many, many more. And the work that you're doing is absolutely wonderful and helping so many. I'm Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy. Thank you so much for listening to the show, and I'll talk to you again next week.